The officer corps of the German Empire, under the enlightened rule of Kaiser Wilhelm IV, was a unique institution. It was an elite cadre of men who were not just soldiers, but scholars, not just warriors, but gentlemen. They were the embodiment of the German Empire's ideals, a blend of humanistic principles, codes of knighthood and chivalry. The training of these officers was rigorous and comprehensive. It was not just about physical fitness or military tactics, but also about ethics, philosophy, and history. The cadets were taught to respect their enemies, to show compassion to the weak, and to uphold the principles of justice and honor. They were trained to be leaders, not just on the battlefield, but in society as well. This approach to military education earned the German officer corps the respect of other nations. Countries like Great Britain and the USA, which had once viewed Germany with suspicion and hostility, began to see it in a new light. The professionalism, discipline, and moral integrity of the German officers were admired and respected. This helped to improve relations between the former enemies, paving the way for closer cooperation and mutual understanding. In the German Empire, the officer corps was highly regarded by society. They were welcomed into the upper echelons of the upper class, where they mingled with aristocrats and industrialists. But they were also respected by the lower classes, who saw in them a symbol of national pride and a source of inspiration. The officers were seen as protectors of the nation, defenders of its values, and role models for its youth. Joining the armed forces was seen as a noble endeavor, a path that could lead to social mobility and respect. It was a way to bridge the class divide, to bring together men from different backgrounds and unite them under a common cause. While the German Empire was more egalitarian than in our timeline, it still had a ruling class and others below it. However, the lines between these classes were beginning to blur, thanks in part to the influence of the officer corps. In this alternate timeline, the German Empire was a nation that valued merit over birthright, character over wealth, and service over privilege. It was a nation where a common soldier could rise to become a respected officer, where a humble cadet could aspire to become a noble knight. It was a nation that was not just strong, but also just, not just powerful, but also fair. It was a nation that was truly worthy of the Hohenzollern eagle that flew over its cities and fields. The German Empire was a beacon of enlightenment and progress, but it was not without its flaws. While it had made great strides in many areas, it still grappled with issues of gender equality and social justice. The society of Kaiser Wilhelm IV's Germany was still largely defined by traditional gender roles. The government, while progressive in many respects, did not actively encourage women to take on traditionally male professions. The armed forces remained a male-dominated institution, with women playing a limited role. Similarly, professions like nursing, teaching, and childcare were predominantly female. One of the most contentious issues of the time was women's suffrage. Women in this alternate Germany did not have the right to vote in the elections for the Reichstag, the German parliament. This was a hotly debated topic, with advocates for women's rights arguing that it was a fundamental principle of democracy and opponents claiming that it would disrupt the social order. The political landscape of the German Empire was diverse and dynamic. On the left, there were parties and movements that aligned with syndicalism and radical left-wing ideas. They championed workers' rights, social equality, and democratic reforms, including women's suffrage. On the right, there were conservative and nationalist groups that opposed the constitutional monarchy and advocated for a more authoritarian form of government. Despite the prosperity and progress of the German Empire, poverty remained a pressing issue. The lower classes, while better off than in our timeline, still struggled to make ends meet. The government, under the leadership of Kaiser Wilhelm IV, implemented various social welfare programs to alleviate poverty. But the problem persisted. Radical fringe parties, both from the left and the right, capitalized on these social issues to gain support. They presented themselves as the champions of the disenfranchised and the defenders of traditional values, respectively. While they were a minority, their influence was growing, adding another layer of complexity to the political landscape of the German Empire.